Alright OG, how you doing? Got my flask here, it's going to be a long one. How you doing Colin, Lou, hi Andrea, Martin, Hopeful Grassy Mountain, Mark H. I had pneumonia, I'm just getting better. I finished my medication. I had pneumonia and I didn't even know that I had it. I knew that I wasn't well. Pixie, how you doing? I knew that I wasn't well, and I was working with my mate, doing some quite heavy work. And how you doing, Brian, mate? Hope you're well. And we were working round about Glasgow, and I've ended up with pneumonia, so it was quite nasty. Quite nasty. Felt like I was drowning. My lungs just could hear the water slushing around in them. Nasty stuff. I definitely wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Oh, that tea's hot. So, I'm just going to discuss a few things that need discussing. Things that need a little bit of light shone in them. And in any type of way that we can do that, then I think we've all got a duty to do it. He's probably know by now my sentiment on exposing things that need a little bit of light shone in them. How you doing, Frankie? So, I seen today that Denise Bulger, Jamie Bulger's mum, has finally been granted 90 minutes to speak in like the House of Lords, you know, in front of people. 90 minutes she's been given. It's taken them 30 years. It's taken the powers that be 30 long years to find a bit of compassion and give this woman her just desserts, you know, give her a shot. She's campaigned via a petition to get the help for this, to get heard, to get an opportunity, bringing some light to the handling of her son's murder. Way back in 1993, I can remember it. I can remember it being national news. A child was missing. It was very unusual. And it gripped those images, those horrific images of those two young predatory children exiting the shopping centre in Bootle in Merseyside and taking James and leading him to his death. It was a horrific event. And I was a young guy then, and I couldn't understand that kids could do it. It was incomprehensible to me that they could be capable of that. Obviously I live in the real world today, I'm a man and I'm a lot older, and I've seen the depth of human depravity in all its forms. So she's eventually been granted 90 minutes. 90 minutes is better than nothing, especially when the people doing the granting are literally devoid of empathy themselves. That's just my general opinion, and I'm going to generalise that. You know, this is a token gesture, they don't care. But we care, don't we? We the public care, and that's why we use our voices on our platforms to do what we do, which is shine a little bit of light on these cases for people like Denise. So, in 1993, Robert Thompson and John Venables led a 2-year-old child to his death, to an extreme death. It was a death, I don't have to go into the darkness of it. You only need to go online and read about it. There was sexual elements, there was all sorts of violations of a child in the most horrific manner. A child a child following two wee boys out of a shopping centre would have thought that, you know, he was going to play, or, you know, he was safe. Children see children, they're lying to them automatically and they think it's safe. They had been in the centre for days plotting and planning this. They just needed the opportunity to snatch a child. That opportunity presented itself when Denise turned her back for 2 minutes in a queue at a butcher's, buying the dinner. She was buying the dinner. The worst crime she committed was buying the dinner and taking her eye off her children, something we've all done. And it took seconds for them to snatch him away. And then, as we know, there was a massive manhunt. And within a couple of days they found James on a train line. And he met a horrific end, a horrific death, which a child should never experience, you know, that level of fear. Always stuck in my head, always stuck in my throat. Always made me wonder about my fellow man. You know, time goes by and then it comes back to you and you remember it and you think about it and you're like, did that really happen? Very similar to the Dunblane massacre in Scotland. Very, very similar kind of feeling. Very eerie. You know, how could a human being be so callous? But when it's two children, and the interesting thing for me in regards to the handling the case, I've spoken about this case a few times over the years. The interesting thing for me, which is interesting by its ability to be terrifying, is that they always talk about these lessons that will be learned. Baby P, the Soham murders, Ian Huntley. They always talk about these lessons that will be learned. April Jones, Mark Bridger case in Wales. And when it's child, it's the first thing that the media and the authorities jump to. Police forces jump to that banner. Almost as if it's generic, almost as if to guarantee to the public that they're doing their thing. Okay? Aye, Ross. And I don't buy it. If you know anything about me, if you don't know me personally, you only know me through my online escapades, you'll know that I've got an absolute hatred for the absolute crap, the dialogue, how you doing guys, the dialogue that these people use to convey a message of emotion and empathy to the public. Lessons will be learned, and they come on a platform and they say it with a really sad face, and then they move very quickly on to the next thing. And I get that public speakers and people in authority have got jobs to do. I completely get that, right? But also, if it's a token gesture and if you're genuinely not that interested, then don't take the gig. Just don't take the gig, right? Because it's very disingenuous, and it's blatantly obvious to me that it's disingenuous, and it's not meant. So they say lessons will be learned. I don't want to talk for the next 2 or 3 hours about why no lessons have been learned. But you'll also know by now that I do my homework and I'm very diligent with my information. I take it serious. Now, I know that lessons have not been learnt because there's no great changes. You only have to listen to Maggie Oliver, former Detective Inspector of the Greater Manchester Police, and how scathing she is on the fact that no lessons have been learnt. And she's got access to a lot more valuable information than I've had. And I'm a member of the public, and I'm able to uncover all sorts of skullduggery just by using a little bit of intuitive investigative journalism in its amateur level, which is what I am. I'm a very amateur, very crude investigative journalist. That's what I would see myself as doing here. Now, I'm deeply intrigued by this country's failure of children and child protection laws and the monetisation of them. You hear me saying that term over and over again. It's because I hope it sticks. Monetisation. It's no secret that I despise authority, because authority has been skewed into deception and fraudulent activity And anyone in all of these authoritative organisations with the power and the remit to implement change are all on the take. They're all on the gravy train and they've all got their heads in the trough. No one and none of them, no entity will convince me that they're any better than anyone else, right? Or that their intentions are genuine. Now you might say, that's a bit extreme, Alex, that's you're kind of like enveloping everybody. Guys, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. And I would love to be wrong. And I would love to put myself up publicly and say, I've been proven wrong. This authority, MAPA for instance, are actually doing great work, and they've been able to keep track of all the predators that they lost during lockdown because they couldn't do home visits. That's never going to be the case, and I'm never going to have to eat my words. I'm never going to have to eat my words. Okay? Now, the reason I'll never eat my words is because I know the depth of the fraud. I know the depth of the fraud and I know the depth of deception, the level of the deception that they're prepared to employ in order to keep our noses out of their business. But it's our business. The whole point of their professional remits and their funding and everything else that they have at their disposal is to give us a better, more protected standard of living. But they failed, and they failed in East Bulger because they had an ample opportunity there to conduct a proper criminal investigation and implement 2 life internment orders on those 2 predators. I'll talk about John Venables first. Both boys were sentenced to about 8 years, right? And they were both released in 2001. This is important, the timescales are important. So 8 years go by and they're released. They were handled as juveniles. That's also very important for later in the chat. They were handled as juveniles, rightly so, but it is murder. In any land on the planet, in any court of law, that's murder. It's not death by misadventure. It's not anything else. It's the cold-blooded taking of life. That's what it is. By 2 children. Almost a learned behaviour. A learned behaviour. That's also important. It was very obvious from the beginning that they came from broken, fractured homes, very dysfunctional homes, and there could have been a high level of other behaviours going on in those homes, and I believe in the case of Venables over Thompson that there was. Because Venables, on his release, immediately displayed some very, very sinister, deeply disturbing behaviours of the sexual variety. He is a paedophile. John Venables is a paedophile. And it's probably safe to assume that the sexual side of the attack on James was conducted by him or prompted and initiated by him. It would be safe to assume that. I've read extensively about his history and I've read psychological reports on him. And he's a deeply disturbed, predatory male who is devoid of empathy. Now, Robert Thompson, on the contrary, still lied his way through the interview and tried all the deception tactics. But I believe that Thompson has not offended since his release. I'm not going to say much more about that because it doesn't mean anything to me. The reason being he partook at an age where he was, at 10 you kind of know what's right and wrong, classroom right and wrong, you know the basics. He partook in the extensive, prolonged torture of a child, and then under joint enterprise they put that child in a train line. How you doing, Jan Barris in Inverness? I'm not far from you, mate. And they put that child in a train line to have him completely destroyed, which is just, it's difficult today to comprehend. And I'm in approaching 50 years on this planet, and I'm like, so yeah, Thompson will never get a pass, but he may go through life not reoffending. Venables has made every single effort to reoffend, such as his compulsion to access diabolical images of children being violated, the most serious kind, the category 3, the top tier of visual sodomy and all the rest of it, things that these creeps get off on. Caught multiple times with it, downloading it. He's reoffended many times, and it's sinister reoffending. This is where I go back to them being handled as children. The police, all respect to them, they petitioned the Crown Prosecution Services to try them as adults and give them adult internments, okay? It was the Crown that failed the police investigation, which is often the case. The public don't understand the concept or the goings on, the mechanisms of it, so they blame the police. Believe me, those police were affected for life. They couldn't not be by that case. At the end of the day, they're human beings, hardened officers, murder squad officers reduced to tears, reduced to quivering wrecks, viewing, the available evidence, the indictable, usable evidence, and on the recovery of a toddler's body. So take it as gospel. Those guys would have been affected by life. They would never have been the same again. Such was the gravity of that case on Merseyside. It was massive, it was massive. It was, I can only draw a parallel with the likes of Hillsborough. It had such a lasting effect. It put a shadow over that place, over that city, and it still does 30 years later. The fact, guys, that a parole board considered Venables fit for release several times. He's only recently been denied release again because of his behaviour's intolerant. It doesn't fit with society. He doesn't know how to behave. He's not a criminal of normal element. He's not, how you doing, Kath? I hope you're well. He's not a criminal that, goes in and steals shower gel or silly things. He's a very different category of criminal. It's astonishing that he's gone through the guts of 20 years in British prison systems and he's not been dealt with. Hi, Danny. That's astonishing to me, because if ever violence was justified on a person, it would be justified on him. I'm not advocating for violence. However, it's a universal language, and I'm not going to be somebody that lies to you and says, oh, I don't believe in violence. I do believe in it. It's a universal language. And for certain people, under certain ilks, cut from certain cloths, it's the only language they understand. I live in the real world. Custodial sentences and raps in the knuckles and taking away their liberty doesn't work. So for somebody like him, the universal language of violence would be justified. The parole board failed because they considered him, let's use the word rehabilitated. In 8 short years, they let him go as a man. They let him go as I believe, an 18-year-old, you know, with very predatory behaviours, that would still have a very clear and concise memory of the events that he partook in around James. And throughout his life, you know, I'll be cautious of what I say, but I will say what I need to say. He would have got off on the aftermath of his crime. That's what type of person you're dealing with. So why would the system ever allow a candidate like that the opportunity to reform and go in front of a parole board? Not a chance. Not in Manelli. It doesn't work. They know his behaviour, okay, because in prison he has access to certain things, and in prison he repeatedly tried to access the black web and child pornography via prison systems that he was entitled to get access to. So all the alarms, all the signs were there that his sentencing had done nothing. And ultimately, they turned him out on a public, but listen, guys, I want to tell you that there's very good reason for putting people like John Venables back into the public domain. John Venables generates an awful lot of money. Maverick, I'm good, thank you. John Venables for the system generates an awful lot of money. Okay? There's an organisation called MAPA. And MAPA are in power, they're funded to protect the public from high risk lifetime offenders. Those that they are pretty much certain that they're going to reoffend, but that have spent their time and have to be released. MAPA are in place to track and monitor these different levels of criminals. So you get like a MAPA 1, you get a MAPA 2, a MAPA 3, and MAPA will categorise your level of criminality, and they will put an appropriate funding package on you in order to serve the public or make it look like they're serving the public. For anyone that doesn't know who MAPA is, it would be worth a little check. I've spoke about them before, I've covered them in other stuffs. I've called them a failed enterprise. I've had some quite scathing stuff sent to me. You know, you could call it threatening dialogue about discussing such enterprises. How you doing, Big John? You alright, mate? I'm fine, John, thanks. So, MAPA must be really offended when a member of the public, i.e. myself, has such a low opinion of them, of their capability. They're a failed enterprise because they've lost track of tens of thousands of high-risk predators. When I say high risk, I mean rapists, and I mean child sex offenders. And if you do a freedom information request, they're lawfully bound to provide that information, but they'll sanitise it, because at their end, they will categorise the losses differently. Okay? And they've got a formula for manipulating the statistics and the numbers. Right? And then they feed that information to the public domain. And it might look like only a few thousand are missing, but the actual number will be 20 or 30,000. And I'd have no problem calling them liars. They have to look successful on paper, guys, okay, because then the funding keeps coming. Funding's important. It's important to remember how these institutions are actually monetised. Okay? Thanks, Tony. They're monetised and they want to keep the gravy train going. So they want to maintain the level of funding that the increments that they're used to. Should they be seen to be not ticking the boxes, then it might be seen by someone pulling the strings that they don't need such a budget, and they might give them a deficit, you know, they might tighten things up. These organisations are going to lie through their teeth to keep that gravy train choo-chooing along. Do you know why? Because they don't care about human beings, they don't care about the protection of humans, and they don't care that you live a decent life without getting attacked in your own home or attacked in your way work. If it's the last video I ever do on social media, guys, I stand on everything I ever say. The authorities don't care about you. Okay? You and your need for protection, or your entitlement to protection in this civilised Western Christian country, is an inconvenience for the authorities. Remember, you're the carbon that they want to get rid of, okay? You are an inconvenience and you're a burden, because if we didn't have to protect the public, we wouldn't need such entities, and that money could go into their offshore accounts. But they have to be seen to be doing something. So authorities like MAPA exist, but they're lying to you. And I invite anyone who has ever been employed by MAPA or involved with that authority to do a one-on-one and challenge me on anything, because I can go deeper. I can go deeper into your facts and your statistics and what you withhold from the public domain. People talk, people blow whistles, people contact people like me, because after years they get sick and they get shocked, and they get highly stressed by the fact that they've been complicit in the fraud and the deception and covering up the true facts. And sometimes morally these people are just overwhelmed, and then they blow the whistle, and they can no longer be part, hi Paula, they can no longer be part of the lies and the fraud and the deception. So they reach out to truth speakers, people that don't hide behind a banner, people like myself, people that don't fear reprisal, don't fear comeback. What are you going to do? Silence me? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do? It's not going to work. It's never going to work. And I'm grateful for having an audience. This isn't about bravado. It's not about, you know, it's not a fan club. Whatever brought me here, it's for the right reasons, believe me. And the more I've educated myself, and the more I've became at one with myself, and I've discovered the information that I've been looking for, the more I realise that everything that I represented in a past life has been a lie. And some of you will know what I'm talking about there. So the handling of the Bulger case is now going to come to a hugely financed public inquiry. They'll throw 10 million quid at this, and everybody that will come in and consult will be paid for their time. No one does this for free, okay? These criminologists and these all sorts of people, forensics, everybody, there's a consultancy involved here. No one gives their time up freely. This is part of the merry-go-round. So this will cost a lot of money. But if it makes Denise Bulger feel 1% better, then it's justified. Because what's money when it's a child's life that we're talking about? You can't put a cost on that. I need to be truthful with you. I just feel that it's disingenuous. I feel that she's been so vocal for so long and so strong, so incredibly strong. She's somehow just kept going. She's been treading water for 30 years, and I think they're just throwing her a bone. They're throwing her a little lifeline, you know, a little half-filled rubber ring. And I just feel that it's disingenuous. Because what are they going to come out with at the end of it? Oh, lessons have been learnt. I've heard that so many times. I've heard them all saying it. It's lies. It's disingenuous as well because it's just made up. It's just nonsense. They don't care. What you do with people like John Venables is you lock them away forever in dark, cold, lifeless institutions, and you let them die. And you do the bare minimum, which is feed them. That's it. You feed them and you oxygenate their cell, and that's all you do. Let them clean their own mess up after themselves. That's what you do, right? Because that's what we need to do in a civilised world. I'm cut from a cloth from a different time. How you doing, Rob? I hope you're well, mate. So, I'm of the old school way of thinking where if I took a child's life, then the system should take mine. It's a one-way transaction. It's non-negotiable. You know, it's non-negotiable. Some of the states in America have got it right. They've got it right. It's an eye for an eye. Neilo, how you doing, mate? So, for that level of offending, there should only be one outcome. All of this rehabilitation nonsense, it's crap, right? It's just lies and it's all trickery. Because with every serious category 1 offender of that makeup, the child killers, they generate huge amounts of funds. You wouldn't believe the money that John Venables has generated for the system over the years. There'll be a network of 200 people keeping Venables protected. There'll be a network of the same amount of people keeping Thompson protected for life. Now, earlier on in the chat, I mentioned that they were tried as children. Lindsay's saying it's a bit late in the day for Denise. I agree with you. As I've said at the start, it's a token gesture, right? But we send our love to her, and we're talking about our son's case to keep it in the limelight and bring light to it. That's why we're doing this, so that he's never forgotten, and so that she knows the public still care at least. So the man management that's involved in a lifetime for protecting Robert Thompson. Bearing in mind, my gripe with the system, guys, is this. I emphasised the fact that they were tried as children, but the police wanted them tried as adults, and they wanted adult sentencing, okay? Life restriction orders, that's what they need. LSOs, LROs, life restriction orders, which is a mandated life term. You die in prison. You're at the pity of the highest judge in the land, or at the mercy of them, and in most cases they throw the key away. The key away, you're going to die in prison. That's what you do with child killers, alright? Because there is no excuse for taking a child's life. None. Therefore, don't worry about rehabilitation, because you're genetically different to a normal member of society if you think it's acceptable to torture a child. So they get lifetime anonymity, costs a lot of money, change your name, everything, right? If they want to go on holiday, everything's paid for. Believe me guys, everything's paid for. Passports, travel, officers on the flight to protect them. You think this doesn't happen? You think I'm wrong? You do a Freedom Information request and you'll see the level of protection these guys got. I'll tell you right now, there is not a child in the United Kingdom with that level of protection. I'll tell you two other examples. If you want to obtain a license to protect your stock from predation from foxes, or an inland fishery from predation from saw-billed birds like mergansers or cormorants, you'll fill out 30 or 40 pages of paperwork and you'll send it to DEFRA and they'll decline your licence to protect your stock, okay? I know it because I went through that system when I owned fisheries for a long time, inland fisheries. Now, you can get access to work with children way easier than you can get a licence to protect your stock. That's a fact. That is a fact. I know that because I applied, or I had to be checked, formally checked to have access to children many years ago for a part of an employment, right? So I know what it involves. And then I done the paperwork to protect my stock, and I was flabbergasted at the hula hoops I had to jump through. So you can effectively get access to children way more than you can get access to protecting your livelihood. That's undeniable because any member of the public can apply for both, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. And they're very relevant as examples because it shows you how backwards this country actually is when it comes to child protection laws. It's a laughing stock. We think we're so advanced, and we all think we're so smart, and our leaders think they're all so intelligent, but they're missing a trick. If you want to be recognised in the global scene as a major player, as a country that doesn't take any shit from anyone, you make your child protection laws the most robust laws in the Western world or anywhere in the world, and you set the bar high. You set the tolerances high and you set the standard in the bar up here, and you lead by example. Why are we dragging our feet? Why are we dragging our feet in 2024? And why are our child protection laws so porous? They're ridiculous. They're ridiculous. That's why there's people in this chat that spend their spare time pursuing online predators because the system tolerates it way too much and they do nothing about it. That's our collective opinion. That's why we exist. That's why that exists. That's why that behind me exists. Okay? So I'm sorry if it comes across negative that I'm suggesting their token gesture of awarding Denise Bulger 90 minutes to speak in front of a bunch of old cronies, right? Old salary thieves, is just that, a token gesture. It's not enough, guys. It's not enough that woman should have to sit every 5 years while that scumbag goes up in front of a parole board and is treated decently by professional people with the remit and the capacity to put him away forever. They sit there and, hi John, how are you John, how's life John, all of that mimicry, all that crap, okay? They're false prophets. he wouldn't have a comfortable experience if I was in that panel. It would be non-negotiable. He would never see daylight again. I don't know what qualifies you to be on one of these panels, these parole panels. I don't know what qualifies you to be on it. Justice to me is very black and white. There's no grey area. Child killers, life tariffs. Young gang members stabbing innocent young boys to death, life tariffs. They thought it was great at the time. They're devoid of humanity. Don't blame age. At 15, I could not put a knife in another young guy. Okay? So I separate myself from that type of person. If they're capable to do it or hack a young man to death with a machete in the middle of a street in a borough in London, then they're capable of handling a 35-year sentence in a double Cat A prison. No? So there should be no grey area. Now, Venables and Thompson, you know, they're well up in their late 30s now, I would say. You know, yeah, they'll be almost in their 40s, I would imagine, and there'll be many tens of millions have been spent protecting their identities and making sure that they've got the best of everything. Robert Thompson's had a few changes of identity at great cost, and he'll be in good housing, he'll be, you know, off the beaten track, he'll be protected. He may not even live in mainland UK. Maybe I know where he lives. He'll be protected. Okay? And I'm not saying that I don't understand why they do this. I understand it to a degree, but that doesn't mean to say I have to agree with it because I understand it. I understand that the public can't take the law into their own hands because mistakes can occur. But I also understand that the public feel cheated because the justice is not, it doesn't carry enough clout. It's not enough. It's disproportionate. It doesn't tally with the crime in this country. I'm speaking for myself, but I also believe I probably speak for 80 or 90% of the population. You read some real harrowing events that occur around the UK. I read proper news, not the crap from the mainstream channels. So I know about the real knife crime in London, in Manchester, in Birmingham, and it's horrific. And the level of gang violence, gang-related violence, cultural violence, the behaviours of swinging machetes around and running about in the street with it openly out, chopping some young guy, is one of bravado. They get big reputations, these young guys. They pursue reputations, they want the reputation. And in order to get it, they basically have to go out and whack some young man to death. And then they'll do a 16, 18-year sentence and they'll come out and they're hero worshipped. So, but if you put them in a boxing ring, they would fold very quickly. It doesn't take a lot of bottle to swing a machete. It doesn't take a lot of bottle to knife someone or a young defenceless man that's just walking home with his girlfriend and is non-confrontational. That's a coward's act. Okay? So your reputation will never ever be recognised by me or any half decent person that has been in a boxing ring or been in the receiving end of someone more powerful than them. Thank you, Frankie. So these young cowards carrying around 25, 30 inch long, easily procured machetes, you know, there needs to be an exclusive tariff for that type of behaviour. A man recently tried to protect his son and 3 of them hacked him to death in the street just because they wanted to get to his son. I've seen the footage of it. I don't mind saying that the culprits didn't surprise me in the slightest, okay? And you can read into that any way you will, any way you want. The culprits for a huge portion of that type of crime don't surprise me in the slightest. Because when you come directly from a third world country that has been a conflict country, that is a learned behaviour. You've seen that, and it's a learned behaviour, and it's the way they do business in Eritrea and Sudan and a lot of the sub-Saharan conflict countries. And then they land in the UK and they conduct the very same behaviour here. No one wants to talk about it because there is a cultural thing involved that everyone's terrified from. I'm afraid it has to be talked about, okay? Has to be talked about, has to be discussed. It has to be discussed that young people in the United Kingdom are being hacked to death over having a different postcode or because they're wearing a £1,200 Canada Goose jacket that some little jumped up shithouse wants to own. So he sticks a dagger through them and ends their life for a rag that's probably made in a sweatshop in India for less than £3. It's all wrong. And our leaders are failing us the same way MAP is failing us, in the same way all the other organisations are failing us because they're scared to address the problem. And when you've got a liar, okay, that's the mayor of the capital city in this country, you're onto a loser, and so are your children, because they're never going to be safe in any of these cities and any of these boroughs. They're never going to be safe. When you've got a liar and a cowardly man that's more interested in air pollution than he is about stamping out the tidal wave of knife crime that is consuming the city of which he is mayor. Cowardly man. Cowardly man. Hi, Amy. There's a lot of deception, guys, and there's a lot of sanitising now. A lot of the knife crime doesn't get into the public domain because it's watershed, okay? It's cancel culture. The true knife crime facts and figures are astronomical. Hope you're well, Scopes. The true knife crime figures are like you wouldn't believe, right? And the police are at the coalface. Now, in London just now, you've got CID guys. How you doing, Jojo? I hope you're well, mate. There's a lot of money in air pollution, Jojo, you're right. You've got the CID guys in London walking through the town, right, like this, hood up, kidding on their drunk, okay? Kidding on their drunk, so that these young gangs will target them for their high value watches, their iPhones and their wallets, right? And they're very successful at it. And I'm going to say one thing. I'm quite critical of a lot of policing But see those guys, see to put yourself in that situation, trust me when I say it takes massive balls. Because your colleagues are 50, 60 metres away, and a 60-metre run can take the average guy with a vest on and some protective clothing 7, 8, maybe 9 seconds to get there. 9 seconds, 10 seconds. Olympians run 60 metres in about 6, 7 seconds, so in 10 seconds you can have 10 puncture wounds from a 6-inch lock knife. You can have been hit with a hammer, chopped with a machete, stabbed to death, throat cut. Those cops have got massive balls, right? Now, that is a great way to police. Hit them where it's hard. These cops, watch the footage, they come running out of nowhere and they smash them, right? They just smash them right up in the air, right over the top of them, bang. They're fit guys and they're clearly trained and they're up for it. They've probably got some Kevlar vests on, a bit of groin protection, maybe some elbow and knee pads. I know that's what I use if I know somebody's going to be a handful, right? Last thing I want to do is damage my elbow bones and lose the power of an arm, right? Can handle broken hands, but when you lose your mobility, it's a problem. So I've put myself in some precarious situations through choice to catch particular people. And another thing that I do, which you know about. So I know the size of the balls on these coppers when they're going against young knife gangs that are out to rob drunk men and drunk women walking home. Stevie boy, how you doing? So that takes massive cockles, massive minerals, believe me it does. And I've got a lot of respect for that. It takes a very particular type of guy to do that. You Stevie's brother? Good mate, good, that's great. Some guy. So, there's Stevie's in the chat there. So these cops that are targeting these knife gangs, right, and they're doing it with brute force, I salute them. I can only salute them because I know what it takes to go into the lion's den and chap somebody's door at 1 or 2 in the morning in a rough area in Manchester or Birmingham and do that. And you guys, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. Okay? You don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't ever know. What I try and do is I try and stack the odds marginally in my favour. I've got a few things against me, right? Injuries, age, I'm not getting any younger. Size, I'm not the biggest guy in the world. Some people think I'm a big bear. I'm probably built like a bear, but I'm only 5'7". I'm not a 6 foot guy. So I don't have a 15, 16 stone frame, but I'm very, very strong. And that's probably my saving grace. I'm probably unusually strong for my size. All that good porridge that I eat. And plus, I'm probably overly confident in my abilities, but not stupidly. I'm confident, let me explain that remark, right? I'm confident because I've got so much hatred for the person I'm trying to catch. And I've trained my brain to believe that no guy that's nonsense children can beat me, right? You might say, Alex, that's a really immature mindset. It's my mindset, so it's nobody's business, it works for me. I'll level my hatred at the person in front of me. And there's no way in the world that they are going to one-up me, especially when I'm live streaming it. Comfort and conflict. It's not stupid false bravado. It's not being a dick. It's not like thinking you're a hard man. Believe me, there's a lot of hard men out there, and a lot of very dangerous people are predatory. And you've got the ones that do martial arts, you know, I've met all types. And also, they've got they've got adrenaline in their side because they don't want caught. They don't want caught by me, so their strength's up. they've got adrenaline coursing through their veins. A nutter from Glasgow's just chapped their door and stuck a phone in their face. They want away. So these police are remarkable, in my opinion. I'm not saying what I do is remarkable, that don't misinterpret that. It's very foolhardy to go yourself. I've had a few close shaves, you know, which I definitely don't recommend anybody to do it. Unless you've got a predisposition to conflictual situations, which will not go into any further, or I'll end up hanging myself publicly, because I'm not smiling. You know, I've got children at the end of the day, but how can I say it without sounding like an idiot? I'm not an uneducated fool. There is a level of enjoyment in it. There's a lot of reward in catching these scumbags. There is a lot of reward in it, lighting them up and letting their community know that the person that they thought was alright is a fraud. So I'm not going to play it down and say that I don't get something from it. I clearly do. There's a guy on the chat just now. He was there the night of the Mark Brady's thing. How you doing, bud? Hope you're well. He came out and he recognised me from YouTube, and we caught his neighbour who was trying to meet a young girl in Glasgow. Mark Brady's just been jailed for 3 years. He was the guy that came out and attacked me in his mum's garden, and he got flattened for his troubles. The Babadook, John, don't you know it? Big John, my mate's in the chat, he knows me. He knows I used to creep about the hills at hours of the night, sneaking up in them when they were fishing. So I've always pursued something that lights you up, you know. It is rewarding. And I would love to do what those cops do. I would love to smash these Rolex thieving gangs. I would love to smash those guys, man. Oh, what a buzz that would be. You know, they think and I could play that part phenomenally. They think you're a drunk guy that can't defend himself. The next minute they're sleeping. That's right up my street. It is. It's a young man's game, but, you know, there's life in the old dog yet, isn't there? But the chances of me being a copper are probably between slim and none. I'm not their favourite person. But, yeah. So, back to the serious stuff. This knife culture is out of control, and these cops are doing balls of steel work. They're literally luring these young guys to rob them. They're walking through Soho and stuff at midnight, steaming, and these young guys are so blatant, they'll rob you at knife point, and cameras everywhere because they've got face masks and they don't care, right? I'm laughing at a comment there. No comment. No, he was a bad boy. Yeah, Cushy, thank you for coming out that night. I appreciated it, mate. And the police were giving me a hard time in Liverpool, telling me that I shouldn't be in that area unaccompanied and I'd no right being there. Ed Colligan, how you doing, Ed? My good pal Ed. Ed's a top boy. Ed's the type of guy you need when you're chapping doors. Say no more, Ed, eh? Ed's a handful. So, I'm glad that you get 3 years for it, and I'm glad that the community have messaged the inbox and we've made it widely known that we've lit him up now and everybody knows. By the way, guys, for anybody from that area, Liverpool, Norris Green, that's in the chat, Mark Brady's chat logs are horrific. He is a lifetime predator. We've had dialogue with ex-girlfriends, former best mates. A guy openly contacted us. Mark Brady was going to be his best man. He couldn't believe it. The guy was heartbroken. I had a long chat with him. Verified him. It was him. And they didn't know what he was like. So, Lee Marvin Hitchman, there it's there behind me, mate. He's in the chat, Big Lee. Guys, that's a great read. He's in the chat just now. Marvin and Kiara. Born in prison, hell of a story. Incredible life. I give it a 10 out of 10. I read a lot. And aye, incredible man. Salute you, big fella. Here's a wee shout out for your book. Get it on Amazon, guys. It's a cracking story. It just shows you the human spirit can come back from anything. The big man had a very interesting life. Go and give it a Google and get an order and you'll not be disappointed with his story. So aye, the people of Liverpool, we were able to make it aware and involve the community in it and highlight him and say what a dangerous predator Mark Brady was. There's a Mark Brady in every town and every city in England and Scotland. And in a lot of cases, in a lot of the big cities, there's 100 Mark Bradys or 500 Mark Bradys, and we catch a small percentage of them, but we do it, you know, we're diligent, you know, we do a lot of work to get these people, and we won't stop doing it. You know, it's very, excuse me for burping, it's very important that our work continues unhindered. And I'm currently being hindered by Police Scotland. I'm being hindered massively for anyone that knows about my case. They're making my life extremely difficult. All because I caught a very dangerous guy. That's all I can say about it. So, we've all got opinions on the police. I have. But I'll salute those guys in London that are trying to stamp out the knife crime. I'll absolutely salute them. You know, they've got families, they've got kids, and they've got to go home at night, and they're putting themselves right in the lion's den, right at the coalface, with young guys that are prepared to chop their way to freedom, chop and stab their way to freedom. Horrific. You know what I'm saying? Cheers, big man, I hope you're well, thanks for that. That's his comments there, guys. Lee Marvin Hitchman and Kiara, his partner. It's a great story. Great story of the human spirit overcoming absolute darkness. It takes a lot. That takes big balls as well to come back for that. Especially when you read about his young life, his childhood. Aye. I read it twice. I read it twice in 2 weeks. Because I was like, I want to read that again in case I missed anything. You know what it's like when you read a book, things distract you. And I charged through it the second time as well. It was like 2.5 nights. And I was like, wow man, it's just mad. It's just a mad story from start to finish. Well, I came on the night to talk mainly about Denise Bilger, James Bilger's mum. And the fact that she's, after 30 years, she's been awarded 90 minutes, just to recap, you know, in front of all the toffs of society. And a shout out to Kiara as well, by the way. I will meet you soon for sure. And I appreciate your invite, thank you. Yeah, I just think it's disingenuous, and I think it should have been a hell of a lot more, a hell of a lot sooner. I think they failed the Bilger family. I think they failed James. And I think, or I'll rephrase, I know that nothing's changed. We're still a failed society when it comes to the protection of children, and we're still dragging our heels because they can't make enough money out of it. But they can make a lot of money out of protecting and tracking predatory adult men and women via MAPA and all the rest of it. Night night, Kush. All the best, mate. I hope things are good in Liverpool. Cheers, buddy. So, I think it's a failed enterprise. I think it's all deception. It's all smoke and mirrors. And I just think when a family's been put through that level of trauma, funding and support should be unlimited. But that's not the case in real time, and it's never going to be the case. There's always going to be limits on funding and the amount of support one family can get, because there's so many problems and there's so many families in that predicament that they're being failed. However, we can find 10 and 12 and 20 billion pounds to send to fraudulent wars in fraudulent countries that are laundering money and kidding on it's a war. Sorry if anyone disagrees with me, but I've got guys on the ground that I served with and they're telling the truth. Freelance journalists that are not dictated to by a paymaster, and the real facts in the ground in these places are so, they're poles apart from what is printed in our media. It's all lies. It's all lies, it's all deception. Now you've got another leader that's became a billionaire and he's still got the bowl out for more money, while his people live in poverty. There's a little trend appearing there, guys, isn't there? We're governed by an unelected billionaire, while his people live in abject poverty, destitute, well below the breadline. People working 40 years of their life and they don't have anything to show for it. And you talk about capitalist societies and people talk about communism. It doesn't, call it whatever you like. Call it whatever you like. It's all bollocks. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Okay? You've got the 1% at the top and you've got everybody else below them scratching about in the mud. That's it. There's nothing in between. There's just deception and fraud. It's all sleight of hand. It's all sleight of hand. An unelected billionaire is currently governing the outcome of your life and your children's lives and everything. They've sold off all our industry. Our assets are not ours. We don't get any share of the oil fund or the mineral deposits from our island. It all goes into private offshore shareholders. It all goes to privateers. They lay claim to it. They lay claim to it. Go to Shetland, guys, and see how the young people are getting on in Shetland. Shetland have took a grip of their oil wealth. Okay? And they're investing in young people, young couples with 250 grand houses and big plots of land and all the rest of it. They're doing something about it. We just get lied to constantly. I don't get lied to. Don't be offended by me saying you all get lied to. I see through all the lies because I don't, first of all, guys, I don't own a television, right? I'm not governed by a television because that's a box and they fill it up with shit, and on a daily basis they project it through your eye sockets into your brain, and that's how you get a human being to consume shit on a daily basis. You sit them in front of a television and you turn it on. It's really easy. It's really, really easy. You're thinking, is there a bit of comedy here? No, I'm having a go at yous all. I'm having a poke at yous for watching a television and actually trusting what's on it. I get it's a way to unwind. You know, I would prefer to listen to a bit of Pink Floyd or something and unwind. But a television is inserting shit deep into your head. Somebody's asking, do I work with a woman from Exposed Scotland channel? You're talking about Laura Steele? Laura's a personal friend of mine. If you're talking about Laura. Laura and Mandy are my friends, yep. They're good people and they're in the fight. And they know all about the exploitation of children in our main city, Glasgow, and Edinburgh, our capital city. They know all about it. So yeah, I do know them. So there you go, guys. Television's a very, very dangerous tool. It spews a lot of lies. And when you've got... Here's another example of lessons will be learned, right? Savile. 4 decades of deception to the British public, molesting young girls live on television while presenting top of the pops, okay? A notorious lifelong child molester. and the worst kind, molesting disabled children that couldn't defend themselves anyway at all, even verbally, right? All hush hush, they all knew he was doing it. Esther Ranson, founder of Childline, I'll say it publicly, she was in on it, she was complicit in giving him a pass. She gave him a pass. She gave a guy a pass that was molesting disabled and mentally disabled children in hospital beds. And they all knew he was doing it. To a man and to a woman, they're all complicit in his behaviour. Okay? And they're all millionaires. Now, move forward a few years and you've got another TV presenter that started his career with his hand up a puppet's arse. Okay? Don't care what anyone thinks. This is my channel and it's my opinion. Schofield is a wronging as well. I don't care if my channel gets struck. Don't care. I'll never shut up about it. He's a wronging, okay? Because he took a minor under his wing when he was the top man in television, 3 million quid a year, on every advert known to man. He took a minor in his camp and groomed him. And the minute he was legitimate, he exploited him. He exploited him sexually. And that young guy had feelings for Schofield, and he turned up at an awards ceremony, you know, all upset because he had shunned him and pushed him away and dropped him when he'd had what he wanted from him. Predatory behaviour. Philip Schofield, you're a nonce as well. And that's it in a nutshell. Call me out. My name's Alex Kearney. My channel's Spartan Child Protection Team on Facebook. I'm AC Shine a Light on Instagram. I'm AC Spartan CPT on TikTok. Get in touch with me. If you want to libel me or sue me, you're a nonce and I'll stand up and say it anywhere. Couldn't care less about the outcome. You're a predatory man. And that's it in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell. In the gullible British public, all these old biddies that love him, love his grey hair and all the rest of it, I'm sorry, but they've had their brains diluted by years of this crap. Now there's people petitioning to bring Michael Barrymore back to television. Michael Barrymore had a young man anally raped in his swimming pool while in the toilet snorting Charlie. He's never answered a question on it, I can't remember. And now all these idiots are petitioning to bring Barrymore back to television. The guy couldn't lie straight in bed. Stuart Lubbock was raped, anally raped, violated by other predatory men in a swimming pool and drowned. And his old father went to the grave with no justice, and people are actually campaigning to get Barrymore back. I wrote on his Instagram, I wrote on his TikTok the other night, you're a nonce, Barrymore, and I get blocked and deleted. What's wrong with people? Why do we want to put these profiteers, these predatory profiteers, multi-millionaires, they've got all their mental, when it goes wrong for them, they've got all these mental dispositions, they're all bipolar and everything comes out the woodwork. Oh, I'm bipolar, you know, oh, I need help, I need support. What, because you get caught raping a guy in a pool? Should be put in front of a firing squad for that kind of behaviour. That's malfeasance in public office, that's what that is. When you're in the public sector, guys, right, hear me out. When you're getting paid by a publicly funded company via TV licensing and you're a millionaire celebrity, you're taking money from the public purse for your salary. If you abuse that position and you're involved in exploiting children, or your behaviour around women is unacceptable or anything, or you're having young men raped at your private pool party, then you're telling the police you were drunk and can't remember anything, so you buy yourself an out with barristership or King's Counsel. That's malfeasance in public office. What's difficult about that to understand? Why are we so tolerant of noncy behaviour in this country? It's disgusting. You've got that idiot right? That idiot that is running America just now, who's just been decided by a court that his functionality, his cognitive functionality, is not fit for standing trial. Why is he in charge of America, the most nuclear powerful country on earth, the biggest military might on this planet, on this landmass, whatever shape it is, and he's not fit for standing trial because his cognitive function's questionable, but he's in charge of running the global military power that is America. I don't know if I'm in a bad dream and I'm going to wake up. I don't know where the justice is, because we spoke about the Bulger case, right? We're on to Biden. I've got maybe one more name I'm going to throw into the hat, and it's a guy that appeared the other night on GB News Question Time with our unelected leader, Rishi Sunak. He's a Glasgow guy, John Watt. He's a vaccine injured guy, and he managed to get a couple of minutes of direct questioning firing them at Sunak. You know, when he's going to acknowledge the vaccine injured people in the UK. Okay? How you doing, Jim? Hope you're well, mate. And people have looked into his past and they're trying to drag up an event in his life and throw shit at this guy who worked for friends of mine for their company and was a very, very first-class joiner who's lost his health through being triple vaccinated and wants answers and should be compensated because now he can't earn. His fitness is gone. And I want to mention him because instead of actually, hi Pollyanna, instead of actually acknowledging what he's saying and saying, right, okay, whatever has been on in the past with his life, these things happen in life, they occur. Why are we judging him in that? The fact is, what else he's done in his life's irrelevant. He's been injured by a medical genocide that was implemented and orchestrated and forced on a population of this country. I'm sorry if you disagree with me. It's fine to disagree with me. I don't need all the members of this channel to agree with me, because then it would be a very boring comments section. It's good to have disagreement, it's good to have dialogue, it's good to enter into, you know, a diplomatic discussion. We live in a democracy. John Watt, hat off to him. He was heard by a nation, and he deserves his desserts, because Sunak claimed that I'm unaware of this, I'm unaware of vaccine injured people. Seriously? There are millions of people that have been damaged. We've got the highest excess death rate that we've ever had in the history of medical records. We've got elite level sports athletes dropping dead all over the planet and no one's asking why. It's just another lie, guys, come on. You need to get with it. See, when you talk about the vaccine stuff, it's very easy for people to get offended, okay? I went to see, because I had just coming through pneumonia, and the other day the nurse said to me, "Are you vaccinated, Alex?" And I went, "Absolutely not. I decide what goes in my body." And she went, "Good." And I went, "What do you mean?" And she went, "Brilliant. I'm glad. And good on you." A nurse, no, an actual GP in a clinic said that to me the other day. I swear on my life. Hand in my heart, whatever you want to do. That's what he said to me. And guys, it's not the first time. Because I was in with sepsis at the very height of the epidemic. And I had the upper floors of one of the biggest hospitals in Glasgow to myself. And if anybody wants to call me out on that, I shared a live on my Facebook when I was down in the bottom floor talking to the night cleaner. And I said, where's all these people? And he went, you tell me. And everybody saw my live. You know how many people were on my Facebook? That was seen by tens of thousands of people. Why are they not questioning it? There's now compensation in place for vaccine injured people, so they must be admitting there's a problem. And if you know where to look for the information, the epidemic was actually downscaled in 2019, but they ran with it anyway and created chaos. And if you didn't want to inject yourself, you got penalised financially. It cost me a fortune to go and visit my kids. Wee man Sham, 11 people at his mum's funeral. That's disgusting. That's genocide. Martin's saying that we're the carbon. We are the carbon they want rid of. They hate us. They absolutely hate us. Guys, it's the first time in medical history, right, that an unpaid medical trial has been enforced on a population. That's all you need to know. You were forced by your employers to take part in an unpaid medical trial. All your employers are complicit in your health demise. All your employers are complicit in the genocide, and all your employers are liable. No employer on planet Earth has got the power to order you to inject yourself with a trial drug. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Now my channel's getting demonetised and all these videos they're demonetising them. I don't care about the money that YouTube pays me, it's peanuts. I don't care. I'd rather have nothing than make money out of the truth. I've never really had any money for YouTube, it's buttons. But the fact is, my content is flagging somewhere to the algorithm and they're switching off the monetisation. Why? Because the truth hurts. Because the big players fund these platforms and they don't like the truth speakers that challenge their narrative. Mark my words, I'll say it here. I'll be heard. However long it takes, whatever I need to do, I'll be heard. John Watt will be heard. Anybody will be heard that wants to be heard. Shout out to Stephanie Bonner, who is now going to be involved in changing the way cases are handled by Police Scotland, because she wouldn't take no for an answer and she stood her ground and fought her corner. Hashtag justice for Reese. So guys, that's where I'm at. I'm sick of seeing my fellow countrymen and women destitute, working themselves to the bone, working themselves ill in a lot of cases, and having nothing to show for a life of hard labour. That's criminality in itself. You can't be working for 45 years and have nothing to show for it. And if you've been in an industry for 10 or 20 years since you left school and you're still being paid the minimum wage, there's something seriously wrong there as well, and you need to be having a conversation with your employer. Okay? The living wage doesn't even cut it, guys. It is extortionate to live in this country, but yet we've got incredible mineral wealth. I mean, let's be honest, they've extracted it for 60, 70 years out of the North Sea and they've put it straight into private accounts offshore. We haven't seen a penny of it. No reinvestment, nothing. All our children should have a fund in place. None of this student loan crap. It should be coming from our mineral deposits. It's getting sold to foreign countries and then we're actually buying it back, in some cases even more expensive. Why are we importing gas? We burn gas off every single day in the North Sea. Billions of metric tons of it. It's all lies. Electricity could easily be free. easily, electricity could be free. There should be no charges in England for water. It's the absolute necessity for life, to support human life. How can you monetise it? It falls out of the sky. It should be publicly, adequately funded. They make all these things private. The very first thing that happens is the shareholders take control and the criminality sets in, and it seeps everywhere. Criminality, seepage is everywhere. The veins of this country are polluted by these parasites. They are everywhere that can be exploited, and they want every single penny out of your pocket back into theirs. Are you comfortable with that? Am I an extremist? I don't think so. I don't think so. I know what's right and wrong, and I know when a country is so broken as ours, but yet we're adding to the problem by having a policy of an open invitation for anyone to come in and further exploit it, which puts the legitimate asylum seekers in a bad light, because then they get a bad rap by those exploiting it, and there's a hell of a lot of legitimate people that deserve to come to a safe country. Absolutely there is. Do not misquote me. But there are the scumbags that are using it as a financial golden goose to exploit and extract revenue and get it back out to other countries and build property empires and all the rest of it. There's so many problems, guys. There's so many problems, and there are solutions. There are solutions, but no one's implementing the solutions. So somebody somewhere must have an angle that they can make way more money via the problem. Follow the money and you'll never go far wrong from finding the corruption. They go hand in hand. Crosshatch is saying the WEF. For anyone that doesn't know, that's the World Economic Forum. Look who's involved in it. Seriously, look who's involved in it. Just look at them. Look at the guys that sit round the table. Okay, these are the very people that throw the race card around and call British-born Caucasian men like myself extremists. Piss off with that crap, honestly. It's boring. It's old hat. The race card's old hat. It's boring. We're a multicultural country and we're better for it. Okay? It's funny, you know, my favourite athlete's a black American. Some of my favourite musicians are black musicians. Most of them are. Some of the people I admire most are black African Americans. What else? My favourite food is from probably southern India. There's so many things that I embrace, but I shouldn't need to justify it. Do you get me? Why do we feel the need to try and make ourselves not sound that we're being ethically or ethnically inappropriate? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's like you're almost conditioned to have this predisposition, this fear of being honest and speaking out because you're scared that somebody's going to label you. I've been labelled. It's just a label, guys. I don't fear it, because usually the people doing the labelling are way more extreme than me. I don't need to worry about labels. I just want good. I just want better for my fellow man. That's it. People have got a right to live half decently. That's all we want. We don't want anything else. We want the truth. We want a bit of honesty, and we want an equal share of the pie. Stop letting private, foreign, offshore profiteers steal the mineral wealth of this country, just the same way as this country and its big pal across the water stole the mineral wealth of all the African countries for centuries. It's exploitation, and now the exploitation has came tenfold back at us, and now we're getting exploited because they've stole everything from the former British colonies. There's nothing left to steal, so now they're stealing from us. They're thieves. They're all thieves, guys, and that's all you need to know, right? The British Empire, I was a cog in that machine. It's built in deception and fraud. I don't care who that upsets, it's the truth. And you would have to be pretty simplistic in your brain function not to acknowledge it. You can't deny it. You can't deny that we've got a lot of blood in our hands. And now that they're unable to exploit other countries on the massive scale that they once did, they're now exploiting us. We are now the exploited. It's not difficult to understand. We're the bank. We're the bank of the rich via taxation. Who in their right mind would sign up to anything where you work hard as a self-employed entrepreneur and you hand somebody 40% of your earnings? Who would sign up for that? Only a nutcase would think that up and find it acceptable. So the harder you work, the more you've got to give a strange entity. An entity that's complicit in the protection of paedophiles and the illegal invasions of sovereign countries under the banners of weapons of mass destruction, and it's all been proven that all the conspiracy theories were true. And now the leader at that time, Mr. Blair, is now a multiple millionaire. He's one of the richest men in the country because of that. He'll never do a day in a dock. He'll never go to The Hague. Complicit in the deaths of millions of Iraqis. It's got to be said. It's fact. It's not about no paying tax. It's about not knowing where your tax goes. When you hand your tax to them, you're complicit in these invasions and these fraudulent illegal money laundering exercises because you don't know where your tax goes. I'm sorry, but you don't. Write to the Inland Revenue and ask them to verify in a full capacity where your tax pounds go. They won't entertain you, which is fraud in itself. It's fraud, guys. They're all corrupt, they're all complicit, they're all moving the money around. It's just one big money laundering exercise, that's all it is. And nothing comes back to the people of this country. Nothing. Why are people accepting that? I'm sorry, but if you want to have a decent standard of living, then you have to stop volunteering all your finances to corrupt entities. It's all coming out in the wash, guys. It's all fraudulent. It's all fraudulent. Darren's asking me what standard. Darren, all I want is people to have a decent standard of living. I'm not saying I want to see us all driving Ferraris, that would be ridiculous. But people don't deserve to be living destitute. When you've got two people bringing a wage in and they've got to decide whether they put the gas and the heating on or they do a decent food shop. Two people earning relatively decent money shouldn't have to be worrying about feeding their children or being able to afford a week in Spain once a year. That's what I'm looking for, Darren. I'm just looking for a moderate incline in the standard of living in this country for people. Our housing's not fit for purpose. In some of the Glasgow suburbs last week, I saw the most horrific levels of housing unfit for purpose. So beyond unfit for purpose. Children living in it. Nobody should be freezing. Why are old people, right? You get to that age, your utilities should be immediately reduced by 75% for the rest of your natural life. We've got private energy companies super taxing us and then posting £700 billion profits at our expense. And you've got people dying in their houses in the winter. You've got people that have got boilers that have been off for 2 years that they can't afford to fix them. You've got landlords that don't care because there is no real legal process. The landlords, although it's getting slightly better, it's still so unregulated. Believe me, I know it inside out. The housing's not appropriate, right? It's not appropriate. I'm not going to get into capitalism, communism, call it whatever you like, socialism, call it anything. Labels are part of the problem of this country's predicament just now. People deserve a better standard of life. If you work 45 hours a week and at the end of every month you don't have enough to put a couple of £100 away for your pension or £100 away for your future retirement, if you're negative equity every month and you're desperately trying to scrape coppers together, there's a real problem there. It's no nice, it's no comfortable when I meet people that are destitute. It's very uncomfortable to meet decent people. If I was doing well before the lockdown, right? The lockdown cost me profitable businesses. They're gone. I'm quite confident that those people that have worked with me over the years would say that I shared the pie with them. I'm quite confident they would say that and that I looked after them more than I had to. So if I'm ever super wealthy, believe me, I'll be sharing the pie with decent people. If I can help somebody, the first thing I'm going to do is help them. Absolutely. Because I don't ever want to be on the same stratosphere as these blood-sucking parasites that would take the bread right out your child's mouth. So I can say that with a straight face. Our country's completely broken. 30 years it's taken for these clowns to give Denise Bulger her shot. What was achieved by that lockdown? Don't tell me lives were saved, because that's a crock of shit. Nothing was achieved other than to destroy the self-employed. That's no sleight of hand, guys. That didn't just happen as a byproduct. That was all orchestrated. It was all orchestrated. And it's fine that Darren's got a different opinion than me. It's absolutely fine. I welcome it. But you have to validate it and bring something in and say, well, here's the proof. All the people can't be wrong all of the time. I get hundreds of messages every week from people that have listened to something because, Darren, they targeted the self-employed because the self-employed hold money back. All the small businesses don't don't pay their full tax or they'd be bankrupt. You effectively mathematically cannot run a small scale business legitimately the way the government want you to, or you would be bankrupt very quickly. I employed the best tax authority in Scotland to show me how to run a business 5-6 years ago, and it cost me quite a lot of money to bring them from Edinburgh to Glasgow, and they said, if you run this business fully legitimately, PAYE, VAT, everything, you will be bankrupt in 3 months. I can validate that, I can prove that. You can't do it. And there are millions of small businesses, and the government shut them all down and then dangled that carrot in front of them. Give us your tax returns, show us your bank accounts, and we'll give you some money. They wanted to see what people were hiding. Why do you think the Inland Revenue purchased Just Eat? You don't know that, do you? The tax comes off its source when the order's made. It's all electronic, it can't be cheated. It literally can't be cheated. If you void receipt after receipt, you'll be jumped on because it flags to the mainframe and they'll know exactly what you're doing. Because everything leaves a trend. Anything online leaves a trend. It leaves an electronic footprint. How far do you want me to go with this? They want to orchestrate everything. Okay? They want to know about every single penny. Etsy, TikTok shops, all these small accounts that people are now having secondary incomes. I'll go ball deep. That is what they're doing. Okay? Darren, they absolutely want you, right? This is why they want to do away with, Darren, with the self-employed, right? It's very, very obvious to me. The self-employed do their own tax returns. There's a lot of cash involved. They're making cash obsolete so that every single dollar you earn leaves an electronic footprint somewhere. They then threaten all the banks, Sterling, Monzo, Tide, all the online banks that we think we're hiding a few quid in. They threaten them with complicit behaviour, and they say, if you're not completely transparent with us, we'll shut you down, okay? They want to remove the self-employed primarily because you do your own tax returns and everyone tells a few fibs just to keep a wee bit back. It's just the way it is. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. They want everybody PAYE in a completely cashless society so that they can tax you fully at source. Do you know that it's fraudulent for an employer to take your tax at source and give it to the Inland Revenue? Do you know that that's fraud? It's fraud, but it suits the employers and it suits the Inland Revenue, so they pass it off as unacceptable behaviour. Taxation's theft in itself. You're not allowed to enter into the dialogue. A third party's dictating the outcome of your finances. They're dictating what comes off of you monthly. They're giving you a number and they're not letting you debate the number. I'm only saying that when you break it down in layman's terms in its simplest form, I'm only saying that it's fraudulent. Just the same way as all these mini supermarkets that are now completely tap here, tap there, okay? And they've got no employees in them. Is that what you want to be? Is that what you want to live? Is that the way you want to live? It's not the way I want to live. Some old people go to these shopping places just to communicate with a human being. It's the only communication they get. We're killing society, and we're also killing empathy and basic human contact one day at a time. We're hammering a stake right through the heart of normal civilised humanity on a daily basis. You drive through now and you grab your food and your coffee and there's no communication. You speak into a box and you give your order and you tap another box and then you leave. So people are losing skill. They're losing losing the gift of humanity. The English language is the greatest vocabulary on earth. It's also one of the greatest gifts to humanity, language. As it goes, we speak less and less and less, because you can go through your whole day and barely communicate with anybody these days. The power of articulation is getting lost. The power of storytelling is getting lost. Look at, look at some of the last great books that were written. The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, J.R.R. Tolkien, stuff like that. To a degree, J.K. Rowling, although I've never read her stuff, I'm not really into that side of it, but I've read Tolkien. Going way back, the Bronte sisters, Jane Austen, some of the incredible books they wrote, Jane Eyre, stuff like that, Wuthering Heights. The power of modern day books are just crap, they're just generic. The power of articulation, the power of storytelling, everything's getting lost. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's, I'll tell you what it is, it's by design, okay? I'm not going to ask, because my opinion is it's by design. They don't want us communicating, because when humans communicate, they strengthen one another, okay? If we're talking to one another, we're strengthening one another. We're building one another, and what's the thing they fear the most? What are we sharing? We're sharing knowledge. Big Scobes over in Northern Ireland, I can jump into my inbox and talk to the big man about fishing, right? Takes me seconds. They don't want us talking where they can't see the chat. That's why everything's monitored, everything's governed, because they're terrified that we're sharing knowledge. The internet's a double-edged sword. It lets them control us to a degree, but it also educates us, which they hate. So they're trying to find ways to offset the balance of education by polluting the internet with utter shite dialogue, lies, fake news. There's fake news everywhere, okay? Right guys, keep it clean in the chat. Don't get personal, please. So that's my take on it. And if you've got an opinion like mine, you'll be called confrontational, you'll be called extreme, you'll be called a lot of these things. I don't understand it. Why am I extreme? Because I want to see the people in my community living slightly better. Right guys, calm down, don't start all that banter please in the comments, or I'll turn them off, please. I'm not following the comments now because I don't want involved. So I just think that when we lose the power of speech and we lose the freedom of speech, then you can't call it a democracy. And like in the comments just now, there's a bit of a disagreement going on with a couple of people, right? Which is their business. My point being, it's fine to have different opinions. Not everybody in this chat is going to agree with me, nor would I want you to. But if you're going to come at me, validate it, substantiate it with something and say, well, you're wrong, Alex, because of this. Okay? Because I know that everything I've spoken about tonight, it's going to be extremely difficult for anybody to disprove it and actually bring a conventional argument to me and say, this is why you're wrong, Alex. I'm waiting for it. I invite anyone to do it. I don't expect it's going to happen. I'm pretty confident that I've got it right. I'm pretty confident that I've got it sussed, that I've sussed them out. Because I don't listen to fake news. I'm not consumed by a television. I don't buy the Sun newspaper, which wouldn't even qualify as toilet paper in my world. I'm not part of any of that spectrum of nonsense. I'm not duped. I'm not easily fooled with all the sleight of hand and all the nonsense that they spin, right? I'm not buying it, guys. I'm not buying that in 2024 we should have people in this country destitute that are struggling to feed their children, that we've got tens of thousands of food banks, that we've got children up and down the country in some of our biggest capital cities being treated for clinical malnutrition because their parents can't afford to feed them. We have. We've got third world problems in this advanced Western society. That's the reality of what we've got. Because the money is not getting adequately given out. Okay? Ed's saying Alicia's having a nightmare with sick pay. Is she, mate? Well, maybe drop me a message if I can help you, I will. I might know some people that can help you, Ed. I hope she's alright and it's nothing serious, mate. It's my pal's daughter. Good family. But there you go, a young girl, right, a young mother, you know, having problems with sick pay. Why is she having problems? She shouldn't be having problems, right? She's a young female, a young new mum, early 20s. She shouldn't be having problems. She's one of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that are having problems accessing what they're entitled to because the DWP is trained to lie to you. Now I'm in talks with a guy that's got another channel and I'm going to be bringing them into the fold. World of Knowledge. He's exposing the DWP for what they are. Absolute charlatans, liars, hell-bent on not giving you what you're lawfully entitled to. Why would you want to work for an organisation that lies to the public about what they're legally, lawfully entitled to? Why would you want a young mum, right, like my mate's daughter, that's got a child, why would you want her financially destitute, struggling? You have to be a deeply sinister person to think that behaviour is acceptable. And to be knowingly complicit in defrauding a young mother is diabolical. It is diabolical. It's not acceptable in any walk of life, never mind in the United Kingdom. And yet it's happening to millions of people. And I'm going to share this guy's channels and you can go in and listen to him. Very knowledgeable, worked for the DWP, couldn't do it anymore, left. He was disgusted. He was physically disgusted by what he's seen and what he was being told to do. He was being forced to be complicit in defrauding members of the public like Ed's daughter. Why would a young female deserve to be treated that way? It makes no sense to me, guys, other than it's fraud. And they're doing it deceptively across millions of people deliberately to keep the money at the top of the food chain. The less they have to give us, the more it is for them. That's all this is down to. It all comes out of a pot, a collective pot where all your monies go, all the speeding fines, all the fake ULEZ charges, all the fraudulent ANPRs, everything goes there. All the fake parking fines. I remember getting a parking ticket on a vehicle registered to me in the middle of Glasgow during lockdown when every single shop in the city was open and all the parking attendants were still out looking for cars. There was no cars in Glasgow. We parked a vehicle in the city centre and went to George Square and they put a ticket on it. How can you put a ticket when the city's empty, when there's no public transport, when there's no shops open, when nothing's open? It was a ghost town. It was like Zombie Nation. And the parking attendants were out. Unbelievable. Obviously it was put in the bin. I mean, I couldn't care less about that type of crap. They call it criminality, you know. Oh, you parked in a bay and you were 8 minutes over. Piss off. If I can get you help, Ed, you know I'll get you the help. I can link you up with somebody that will give you valid advice and hopefully help Alicia out. So get in touch, bud. Right guys, we've spoke about quite a few things tonight. The main thing being the Bulger case, which 30 years later is still as raw as it was then, and think how it must be for his mum, you know what I mean? There's a lot going on in the world just now. There's not much good news. As always, I try and finish with something kind of half-hearted, but it's getting more difficult. I don't remember the last time I probably had a genuine smile on my face. Such is the deplorable state of our nation. So, I don't suppose I'll finish it any other way than saying thanks for listening to me. There's Minto. How you doing, Minto? I hope you're well. Aye, I'm going to be sharing more stuff as the weeks go on. As I say, I've not been well. I've had pneumonia and I was really struggling. And I'm just trying to get fit again. I'm going to be doing some things soon, public speaking again, accompanied with a couple of people, and I'm looking forward to it. And why shouldn't we? If we've got something to say, why shouldn't we do it publicly? Why should we fear being heard? Why should we fear ridicule, finger wagging, opinion, gossip? How you doing, Bandit? Hope you're well, bud. Hope you're well, Bandit. Guys, if anyone ever thinks I'm going to be scared of someone's opinion of me, then you don't know nothing about me. Alright? OG, kiss and make up, mate. It's always good to leave in a good note, never leave in a bad note. Remember guys, it's never personal, it's just a matter of opinion. And that's it. Well, there we go, right? And that's that in a nutshell. We've had a good discussion. I'm going to get my flag up. Does anybody know what that flag is? Wonder if anybody knows what it is. It's a traveller's flag, you're right, Bandit. It's the flag of the travelling community. The real, original travelling community. The good people. Not those that hide behind that flag and got up to all sorts of carry on. The new Spartan flag. Well, there's a few flags up in here, guys. There's some things that I make up in the wall there. Pink Floyd and stuff. There's the flag of Gibraltar, per mare per teram. There's where your human rights are, in the bin. I made that myself. And there's a Spartan slate there. And there's another one. Trust the Science. Boris Johnson on the Joker card. I made that as well. And there's your life going down the drain. I do these things when I'm bored. But that's another story. I've got a mischievous side to me, as you can probably gather. So that's see no evil and hear no evil. Speak no evil is somewhere else. When I was serving in the Civil War in Sierra Leone, I had a guy make these for me. And I've had them with me ever since. He hand carved them. And it didn't take him a couple hours and he came back with them. And I couldn't believe it. And they were a couple of dollars. You know, they were like $3 or $4, maybe $5. I probably gave him 20. So I've still got them 24 years later. I've got elephants and I've got a thinker, the thinking man, and I had a few other things which I've gifted to people over the years, but I keep them because I've got fond memories of serving in Sierra Leone during the Civil War in Freetown in 2000. The sun is eclipsed by the moon, yep. So I make slates as well. I'll before I go, I'll show you. Bandit, I'll get your number, mate. So let me quickly turn this. So there's some of the slates I make. Pink Floyd, that's Wish You Were Here. That's Roger Waters, The Final Cut. There's The Wall. There's Dark Side. There's Run Like Hell from The Wall. There's Relics. And if you look closely, you'll see 1971 and you'll see the time machine. A bizarre collection of antiques and curios, that says there. All Just Bricks in the Wall, and there's the Division Bell. You like Relics? And there's Animals, 1977. The pig being flown over Battersea Power Station. There's a wee commando dagger. 1664, the year the Duke of York and Albany's Maritime Regiment became the Royal Marines. And there's a wee ode to Banksy. There's your human rights getting put in the bin with the old litter guy. Remember the old litter sign? I painted him next to her. It's just slate, and I just do it with wee acrylic paint pens. I'm not a very good artist, but I do my best. And then I spray them with a wee bit of clear coat, a wee bit of lacquer. They're alright. Listen, as I say, I'm not an artist by any stretch, but I actually quite enjoy it, so it keeps me busy. And I love Pink Floyd, they're my favourite band, obviously. I'm a massive Pink Floyd fan. I'm a Floydian. I love The Final Cut. I love Roger Waters. I've seen Roger Waters. I've seen him in Arnhem and the Gelderdome in Holland, and I've seen him in Glasgow. It's an incredible show. Thanks, Darren. It's alright. They're nice. Do you know something, guys? I'm not an artist, right? I literally couldn't draw to save myself, but I only started doing it. I seen a slate and I went, that's a nice bit of stone, I'm going to paint that with something, and it came up really nice. And see when I sprayed the epoxy clear coat, it brought it to life. It's actually the slate that sets it off. You know, let me quickly show you what I mean. Look at it shining, right? You can see the grain of the slate, right? And I use a little bit of red round it, and you know, it's really easy. And if you look along them, you'll see the shine. And that's the clear coat, and the slate almost looks like the wall, you know. So it doesn't matter what you do, it brings it to life. I mean, that slate there has got a bit of natural ore through it, which adds to the texture, you know. So aye, they're all right. And yeah, it shines. And when I spray the clear coat, it brings the slate to life and the colours to life. So there you go. As I say, I'm not an artist, guys. It's no difficult. These wee paint pens, you get them on Amazon, they're so cheap. And the slate actually does the work for you. I'm definitely not an artist, right? They look good and they've come up great, but most of the work's done for me because of the slate. And I've got quite a creative mind. I have, because when I've done my businesses up over the years, I've done them all myself and I designed them myself. And I don't talk about the businesses often because I don't want them targeted by trolls and stuff. So I keep that very private. But I've got a creative mind. I seem to have an ability to see a place finished before I've even got the keys for it, and that was what I did with a place that I took on. It was a former office, and I turned it into something, and people go, oh wow, that's amazing, and they love it, and it's good to hear that, you know. But I'm able to see the finished product. I've got quite a good vision. Frankie, I'll do you one with your football team, mate. No, I wouldn't sell you. I would just, you know, wrap it up and post you it. I have had people try to order some from me, strangers. I think I put them in Facebook Marketplace, and some guy said, will you do me like the back catalogues of the Beatles or something, or Led Zeppelin, I can't remember. And then I messaged him back, and he never responded, so I was going to do it for him. I wouldn't know how to price them. I wouldn't, you know, I would just do you one and send you it. I've got a couple down here I've done for, here's a sec. Let me see. Here's one I done. Here's one I done for Gary Tascaro. 1st Battalion, the Parachute Regiment, in Tricky Paratus, Gary Tascaro. That's for Gaz. I need to get it to him. Regardless of what MD thinks of the Parachute Regiment, he was in it, and that's his thing, and I did that for him. I need to actually get that to him. Aye, one para. So, I just enjoy doing it. Aye, big up the Tasman. I just enjoy doing it. And it's funnily enough because they go quite well. Listen, Storm Thorgerson was the guy that designed Pink Floyd's covers in their back catalogues, which is known as their back catalogues, like Mother, Atom Heart Mother, all the classic stuff. I don't think Storm was involved, he's dead now, but like way back in 1967, like Piper at the Gates of Dawn and stuff like that, but he did come in, medal, stuff like that. So he's the brains behind all of this. He's the guy that came up with the images. Pink Floyd were always about the visual, right? They were always about the visual. They made themselves look very, very small on stage. And they used laser and light to generate the show. They were way ahead of their time with visual stuff. Way ahead of their time. And there are very few bands that can lay claim to not being influenced by Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd are a legendary music band, legendary rock band. Somebody's mentioning Syd Barrett. Syd Barrett was an original founder member. David Gilmour came in later. They were all architects at Cambridge University. Nick Mason, Richard Wright, extremely intelligent guys, you know, real visionaries. But Storm Thorgerson was the brains behind the artwork. The Prism, Dark Side of the Moon, you know, it was the biggest selling musical album on planet Earth for about 5 years. There was a factory in Munich in Germany, and the sole output for a 2-year period was the Dark Side of the Moon album. It's incredible. It's, you know, it's sold hundreds of millions of copies globally. So you could say they're a pretty good band. They're not everybody's cup of tea, but I would say I'm borderline obsessed with Pink Floyd. Yeah, I would say I've been, at times in my life I've been obsessed with them. You know, I could put Shine On You Crazy Diamond on repeat for 4 days and be unaware of it playing. I just love them. But I love all music. Strangely enough, one of the only bands I don't like is the Beatles, because I've got a real dislike for Paul McCartney. Just don't like the guy. I find him really disingenuous. I think he's a fraud. I'm sorry, Paul, but you just rubbed me up the wrong way. Too smooth. Too smooth. Yeah, I don't like him. Don't like smooth guys. I like folk that are rough around the edges. Aye, I just don't like the Beatles. And I get it, you know, they do some good stuff, but I didn't like them. I didn't like Oasis back in the day because people were like sheep flocking to them. And yet today, I really appreciate Oasis. Both brothers. I think Noel Gallagher's a phenomenally talented songwriter. And I think Liam, for all his vocal limitations, is a phenomenal frontman. But back in the day when it was all the mass hysteria, I didn't want any part in it. People buying green smocks and trying to look all cool and growing their hair down and all these stupid sideburns. I was like, get a grip of yourselves. But now I really respect Oasis and I think they're fantastic, you know. I think both brothers are brilliant and I would love to see them tour again. I'd probably go because I appreciate what they do. And I think Liam in his own right is pretty awesome. But I don't like, you're going to say I'm like a stickler for a bit of fun. I'm not, right, but I'm not into mass hysteria. And I'm not into, I remember Blur, they were like Oasis's nemesis band. They did some incredible songs like The Universal, Damon Albarn. You know, in that whole time, The Verve, somebody's Motorheads wrote The Verve. Probably up there in one of my top 5 most favourite bands. Richard Ashcroft is just a sublime artist. Richard Ashcroft, Oasis, Noel Gallagher has got Richard Ashcroft up here on a pedestal. He's like, Noel Gallagher sees Richard Ashcroft like a god, like a demigod, you know. The guy's phenomenally talented, and if anybody wants to hear an incredible piece of music, go into YouTube and like, I think it's on Jules Holland, and you'll see Richard Ashcroft doing an acoustic version of a song called They Don't Own Me, right? Go and listen to it. Tangerine Dreamer, great songwriter. They Don't Own Me by Richard Ashcroft and The Verve. It's one of their more obscure songs, but it's an epic song. And it's about they, us and them, right? Richard Ashcroft cancelled his concert because those in power were ordering everyone to be vaccinated and bring paper, and Richard Ashcroft said, go and fuck yourselves, okay? This is about music, it's not about bloody indoctrination, and sorry for swearing, but passionate man, I'm a big Verve fan. The Drugs Don't Work's one of the greatest songs ever penned. Phenomenal band. How did we go into the subject of music? Can't even remember. All these things. So I seen Embrace getting wrote there. Somebody wrote Embrace. Embrace are a phenomenal band. Keane, phenomenal band. One of the songs that Embrace done was Gravity, one of my wee karaoke numbers. And it was originally written by Chris Martin from Coldplay. Awesome. James are they're just massive, weren't they, in the 90s? James were phenomenal. Getting Away With It's one of the best songs that you'll ever hear. I've seen them live. I've seen James live. Wow, what a front man. I love music. We were blessed. The 90s was an absolutely blessed time. Sonnet's phenomenal. Because we had all of those bands coming up, right? And even, you know, late 80s into the 90s, we had some incredible bands as well. Bands like The Farm, you know, The Charlatans, The Inspiral Carpets, The Stone Roses. Ian Brown's a bit of a dick. He winds me up with his monkey magic haircut, but I can appreciate the fan base, why they hold him in that regard. And he also is a good speaker, you know. He doesn't suffer fools gladly. Manic Street Preachers, awesome, love them. Chumbawamba, the Soup Dragons, Bandit, the Soup Dragons were brilliant. They're still going, by the way, the Soup Dragons are still going. The 90s was phenomenal. I'm just a wee bit older than you, Graham, and the 90s music was phenomenal. I love Shakespeare's sister, right? Marcella Detroit and Siobhan Fahey from Bananarama. She's 65, Marcella Detroit's 71, and they toured in 2019. If you go into YouTube and watch it, and watch them doing Stay, Shakespeare's sister, it will blow you away. Marcella Detroit, she's 71, so she'd have been, what, 67, 68 then. Vocal, she's a vocal goddess. Unbelievable. Shakespeare's sister, what a band. They wrote one of the best songs of all time, Hello, Turn Your Radio On. And it's very, very appropriate for today, for what's going on in the world. Because the lyrics, you know, are so important to what's happening now. Shakespeare's sister, tremendous. Anyway, guys, some amazing bands. I spoke too much there, I'm a wee bit out of breath again. So music's the saviour. Music is my medicine. The mountains, nature, wildlife and music. The Charlatans, brilliant. Remember them. Remember all those bands like Beloved, Sweet Harmony, phenomenal. We're so lucky to have the 80s and the 90s. I mean, I can go back to the 50s and talk about music, in the 60s, you know, Billie Holiday. I can go back and talk about most genres of music. But the 80s and 90s are going to be hard to beat, let's be honest. Some of those 80s bands were epic. Absolutely insane bands. The Cure, The Smiths, you know, Morrissey, Aha, Morton Harkett. Jeez, oh. What can you say about bands like that? Garbage, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant band. What was it? What did you say there? She was a very nice lady. Aye, I know. I've heard that. Garbage were brilliant. Howlin' Wolf, Bessie Smith and Co. Motorhead. I've got an insane taste in music. Remember bands like the Claws and the Cranberries. Dolores O'Riordan, she passed away. The Cranberries were phenomenal when they came on the scene. They just blew it up. Tremendous band. I was big in U2 when it was like One and the Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby, Simple Minds. But U2 have went a bit stupid now. They're far too woke for their own good. Sinead O'Connor's one of my all-time favourite artists. She wrote an album. Her album was The Lion and the Cobra. There's a song on it called Drink Before the War. Absolutely phenomenal. What a woman. Died recently, you know, tragic. What a loss. Phenomenal person. Very, very marginalised and misunderstood. But she was a good person at heart. She definitely was that. God bless her. Yeah. So there we go. Sinead O'Connor, man. Mandinka. I remember when she was like 18, 19, doing like the Oscars or the Grammys or something in America, she just blew the Americans away. Her energy was off the charts. There's an amazing bit of footage on YouTube where it was just after she had burnt, you know, an image of the Madonna or Christ. She'd done something on stage that was frowned upon, and she'd done it for her reasons, and she's entitled to do that. And she was getting ostracised, and Chris Christopherson comes out behind her and he's like, get your balls in your hand and get singing, and he protected her. Christopherson protected her. Brilliant. He's a good musician. He was part of the Highwaymen with Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash, the Highwaymen. What a lineup. On par with, like, you know, the Travelling Wilburys, those incredible bands at that time. Fairground Attraction, Kirsty MacColl. It was an image of the Pope. Mint was saying, aye, that's right, it was. It was an image of the Pope. And, you know, she had reason to do that because she was affronted by the Catholic Church's handling of certain aspects and certain things under their remit. So she did something that she believed would get attention. So that's the world we live in, guys. From whatever side you're on, things need to be called out, don't they? So there we go. Aye, that was a good wee chat about the music. The punk era. Bandit. Yeah, my big mate's a big punk fan. Mega punk fan. I was in Belfast a couple of years back seeing Stiff Little Fingers. Wow, it was mental. It's brilliant. I love it. Punk was phenomenal. What a time to be alive. OG's saying he's not religious at all. I'll crack the jokes, OG. Listen, we're all entitled to believe in what we like. This has been a good live, wee man sham. Punk will never be dead. Punk will never be dead. The Cockney Rejects, brilliant. The Flying Pickets, Frankie. The Flying Pickets, the Stranglers, I've seen them. I love the Pretenders, Chrissie Hynde, she's some woman. Love the Pretenders. The Clash. Some great bands getting mentioned. Boy George, Karma Chameleon. The Jam. I love Paul Weller. I think, you know, some of his stuff is not a patch in his other stuff. Like You Do Something to Me and Brand New Start, you know, the classics. Wild Wood, Pebbles on the Beach, Broken Stones, you know, just phenomenal. Bruce Springsteen, now you're talking about the different gravy, Frankie. Bruce Springsteen's the king. He's the man. Seen Bruce Springsteen? What an energy that guy's got. He's a boss, isn't he? Bruce is the boss man. Still rocking it. Broken Stones is brilliant, Pixie, yep. What a tune. Pebbles on the Beach, kicked around, displaced by feet. Simple, innit? Simple and it works. Aye, Paul Weller's some boy. Oh, him and Noel Gallagher are big pals, aren't they there? You know, Noel Gallagher must be saying, this is crazy, I'm pals with a guy that I listened to as a young guy, you know. It's mad, innit? Anyway, good luck to them. I'm good, Tony, I'm fine. And we lost Mal recently from Ultrasonic, big Scottish rave band. I was at the raves, I seen them live many times when I was a young guy. He's getting buried, in fact, in the 23rd, I think. Friday's funeral is down in the Hurlet near Barhead, and that's all. Ultrasonic, big shout out to the US, the Ultrasonic crew. The Proclaimers did only have one good song. And it isn't 500 miles, it's Sunshine and Leith. Ultrasonic were brilliant. Them and Die Witness. All the Scottish rave bands, QTX, QFX, the Hoik Brigade, they were the best. The Scots knew how to do it. The Scottish bands were the rave scene. All the best rave bands came from Scotland. It's a fact. Base Generator, Base X, TTF. There we go. What about Jedward? Does anybody like Jedward? Right, on that note, guys, alright, we're not getting into Jedward, so I'm going to say good night. As much as I'm enjoying the chat, I'll probably regret ending it. But I'm away to put Jedward on for 10 minutes and have a wee sing song. Alright. So thanks everybody. This was a good crack tonight. It's cheered me up no end. Made me feel better. We spoke about a lot of serious stuff, but we ended on a good note. Hangar 13 says good night. The Metro's reopening tonight. Friday night's opening night. The Metro up at Saltcoats. Right, dudes. Be safe. Look after yourselves. Stay healthy. Stay steady striving. He's no the crack. Okie doke. Thanks everybody. Frankie, Bandit, all the old faces. Cheers guys. Tangerine Dreamer, Pixie. Thank you everybody. Cheers guys. Night night. Alright. Stay safe. Oh, how do I'm even forgetting how to end this now. Good night everybody.